T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Kush's Corner here on the Trap Talk Reptile Network, the coolest reptile network in the world. Tonight, I'm joined once again by Blake Bauer of Python Central for some scrub python talk. For any of you who do not know, Blake has been a major player in the scrub python world for a long time. This year, he successfully produced southern scrub pythons, so we're going to be getting into that. Some of you may know him from his accomplishment of being the first person to ever successfully reproduce Halmahera scrub pythons. We'll definitely get back into that story as well tonight. But before we get started, of course, as always, USARC. So USARC is the organization that is fighting for our rights to keep our reptiles, to run our reptile businesses, and to live this lifestyle. Check out usarc.org for everything you need to know about the organization. That site is also where you can find alerts on any pieces of legislation that are introduced either at local levels or the national level, as well as updates on the progress of any pieces of legislation. usarc.org is also where you can become a member of the organization. As a community, we have strength in numbers, and the more people that are behind the cause, the better. And here we are. Thank you to everybody who is tuned in live. If you are hearing this after the fact as well, thank you very much. If you are here on YouTube and you are not already, please subscribe to the channel. A new podcast comes out every single day of the week, and sometimes even twice a day, here on the Trap Talk Reptile Network from some of the best hosts in the game, talking about a wide variety of topics from within the industry. We are also on all the audio platforms as well, be that Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever you get your podcast from, you can find the Trap Talk Reptile Network. And following a 5-star review on any of those platforms would be most appreciated. With the housekeeping out of the way, let's bring Blake onto the show. What's going on, Blake? Thank you for being here with me once again.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you were on, maybe about 15 months ago or so with Shane. We did the Halmahera episode. That was still to this day one of my favorites that I've done. But now that it's just you on the episode, I kind of want to get into a little bit of your backstory before we really get going here. So kind of give us your story, life and times in reptiles, and kind of what brought you to the point where you are today.
Okay, yeah. Well, first I have a quick question. So
Sure.
The photo you put together to promote the show, I have to ask, am I the first axe wielding guest to have on the show?
1,000%. You are the first. You are the first axe wielding maniac on the show.
Awesome. It's always good to be first at things. So
Absolutely.
So yeah, I've been around for a little bit here. Always loved reptiles. Growing up in Los Angeles, I would always go to the San Diego Zoo, Los Angeles Zoo, and always wanted to go to the reptile houses first. And fortunately, my mom was afraid of snakes, so she never let me keep any growing up. So of course, once I got out of the house, I started getting a large collection, and probably why I've gone completely nuts with it at this point. But I went to college at Central Washington University, which is in Ellensburg, Washington. It's in the middle of nowhere. Half the people from Washington don't know where it is. But it was great because it was just small college town, and you go out of the city and it is, you go one way and you go into the shrub steppe, which is practically the desert, or you go, to the west and you go into the Cascades. Really great place to go outdoors, and was very fortunate that there was a lot of reptile professors there, as well as graduate students that were really in reptiles. And with it being a small college, I kind of was able to go to them and be like, hey, I'm really interested in this stuff. Can I help you with research, whatever you're doing?
Okay.
And so that's where I met Dr. Daniel Beck, who many people may know he wrote the book on Gila monsters and beaded lizards and is the authority with them. So I was very fortunate to be able to work with him for a while. There was another professor, Dr. Stephen Wagner, he did a lot of stuff with amphibians.
Okay.
I was kind of like, the first thing I started was working with him, and he was doing some stuff with like ingredients in Roundup and how it affected amphibians and things like that.
Okay, interesting.
And then there was a grad student, Robert Weaver, who then went on to get his PhD, who kind of became a mentor of mine and a good friend. But he not only did a lot of work, but he had also kept a large collection of pythons.
Okay.
And so he kind of introduced me to them, and kind of why I credit a lot of him or me getting into python specifically. He kind of got out of them by the time I met him, but he had kept a lot of scrubs and Papuan pythons and white lips and all that. And,
nice.
So kind of what introduced me to them.
Okay.
And so, yeah, started out getting pythons. My first one was children's python. Then started getting carpets, blood pythons, things like that. And then I finally decided to got more and more into the scrubs. And also from there, so basically Robert told me like, oh, you should go to these shows, that they have. And he's like, there's some old friends that should be at the shows that I have that you should go introduce yourself. Well, they ended up being Yasser Mustafa, Nick Mutton, and Ryan Young. So
it's a good group.
Yeah. So it kind of really was a great spot to go to college and kind of around all these people that could introduce me into basically all the things I'm into now. And so you got to, get to know Nick, Ryan, and Yasser. And, back then that was in Yasser's, heyday of keeping a ton of scrubs and breeding them. And so was able to really learn a lot from them and all of that. So, and then, so 2007, I graduated from, actually back up just a little bit. In 2006, I went to intern at the Kentucky Reptile Zoo, where Jim Harrison is, Kristen Wiley, fantastic place. If you ever get a chance to go there, to intern there, got a lot of, knowledge about more venomous stuff. And, I didn't, as an intern there, you don't work venomous. I didn't work anything venomous there, but I got to observe, and it was very informational and taught me a lot, and a lot of things I still rely on today. So 2007, I graduated, and I was able to get a job here at the Oklahoma City Zoo as a reptile keeper, and I've been there for the past 18 years.
Wow.
Most has been in the reptile department. I have been a couple times where I was into a few different roles, but in with the reptiles still now. I'm lead keeper there, and I've been going there 18 years strong, and plan on being here for a while longer.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't realize you'd been at Oklahoma City exclusively for that period of time.
Yeah, we kind of just put down roots here, and married and have kids, and we have a pretty good life here. So, and then just kind of with the retirement system we have, and kind of the years I've had here now, it's like kind of should stick it out till 25 at least, and take advantage of that. So, but I, and it's not just about that. I really enjoy it.
Sure. So. No, I bet. So to kind of go back a little bit, that college up in Washington, did you choose it specifically because there were reptile, professors who were into reptiles there, or was it just kind of like luck of the draw that you ended up with around people who were really passionate about them as well?
Really luck of the draw. It was, I went there because, I grew up in Los Angeles, and I never really liked living in Los Angeles. It always felt like too big of a city for me.
Sure.
And so I was looking for the exact opposite. I want small, I want more outdoors oriented. And I was interested in Washington. And so kind of found a few universities there, and I
Mhm.
got into that and really I visited and loved it. So
Okay.
yeah, I just happened to find all these herp professors, and yeah, I was really fortunate there. I don't think I could have landed in a better spot.
Yeah, sure sounds like it. So then into your career in the zoo field, was that your goal, or was that something that just kind of came about and you're like, hey, cool opportunity, let's take this route? What was the kind of impotence of that starting?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like my mom found a a little like journal from when I was a kid, and then it says I want to be a zookeeper when I grow up, and that was kind of like I always knew I wanted to do something with animals.
Mhm.
Um, for part of college, I kind of thought about going the academic route and like getting my master's and
Okay.
PhD and becoming a professor. I do love doing research, and so, but then I kind of like towards the later stages of getting my bachelor's, I was kind of like I'm getting kind of burnt out on school, and so the internship came up, and I did that, and then I was kind of like, what, why don't I go work? And I really want to do college thing, and if I decide, in a couple of years, I got the itch to go back and get a master's or whatever, I will, and I just kind of haven't.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. So, I think the main thing that most people think when they, think about a career in the zoo field is it not being one that is like very financially sustainable. And, obviously I know people who are the exception to that kind of ideal, and obviously that would include you as well. But um, I guess how does one kind of approach finding a career in the zoo field that is long-term sustainable? Where you're able to have a family, et cetera.
Yeah, it definitely is. It can be difficult. Um, there have been times where, like when we had our first kid, I got a second job just to help pay
Mhm.
for daycare, and I was working 6 days a week. Um, but I mean, I will say I think I can't speak for all zoos, but at least my zoo, it
Yeah.
has really come a long way in the years that I've been there,
Okay.
where they are constantly like every 5 years they will do kind of assessment of how we stack up to other zoos and just the market, and will adjust. And so usually, pretty much every time they've done that, they've raised our pay,
Okay.
and so it's gotten better. Um, it Yeah, you're never, unless you are going up to like being the director of a zoo, you're not going to get rich working at a zoo.
Sure.
But for me, it's I'm going and doing something I love every day.
Yeah.
I'm,
100%.
I'm active. I work with animals. I feel like I'm doing something that can possibly help make a difference in the world,
Mhm.
rather than sitting behind a computer all day and
Hating your
crunching
life.
numbers. Yeah, like my dad was an accountant. I don't know how he did that his whole life. I could. That sounded terrible to me, but he loved it. So, great for
Yeah.
him.
So I guess it really could just come down to finding the right zoo where there's actually that room for growth and the room for establishing that career. And you just kind of got lucky that OKC was that way.
Yeah, and
Okay.
yeah, I mean, we have we've made a good life for us here. We're
Mhm.
not like rich by any means, but we can pay our bills and everything. We were able to grow a family and all that. So it is possible. It might be the most difficult when you first get into it as an entry
Yeah.
level, and then you work your way up. And there is um, a little benefit to going from zoo to zoo. Like if you're able to kind of do a couple years at one zoo and then you can go to another one, you can actually move up faster a lot of times
Okay.
than in one than if you stay at one place. But um,
Interesting.
and some zoos are better than others at pay and stuff. There are definitely some zoos that have the reputation for not paying very well, and they tend to be a lot of people get a job there kind of just as a foot in the door, spend a
Yeah.
little time there, and then move on to somewhere else. So
Got it. Okay. All right. So then, as in the lead keeper role, kind of what are your general responsibilities there at the zoo?
So, so as lead keeper, I'm expected to have kind of a smaller um, group of animals that I take care of.
Mm.
And so a lot of mine is kind of guiding the senior and entry level keepers, and kind of a lot of what I do is training them and
Okay.
making sure they're helping make sure they're follow procedures and stuff. And then I have assistant curator above me that I, you know, work with them. I give them input on things that I think should be done. And, just I don't do too much of the discipline, which is kind of nice because that's not a fun part of the
Yeah,
job.
100%.
But it may be more like, hey, this is an issue we're going on, and let them deal with it, that kind of stuff.
Mm.
But I enjoy it. It's a pretty good role where once you get to assistant curator, you're not really expected to do much animal work.
Sure.
So it's kind of a good, nice mixture of still working with the animals and some management.
Okay. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Do you have much say over kind of what the collection looks like at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I try and give as many ideas as I can on what we do. I don't have, of course, don't have final say. So like I suggest things, management can take it or not.
Sure.
It just depends. But they do listen to me a lot on what we should do, or what I think.
Okay. So were the Halmaheras like something that you pushed for, or was that kind of like you just got lucky enough that ended up happening for you guys?
Oh, that was all me.
Yeah, I kind of figured.
So yeah, years ago, late 2000s, they said I could get something else, and I was originally going to get some Timor pythons from a zoo, and then the Bronx Zoo actually came out soon after that and said, "Hey, we have 2 pairs of Halmaheras, if anybody wants them." And I was like, "Can we get that too?" And they said, "You need to choose one or the other." And so I was like, "Well, I of course got to go with the Halmaheras. Timor pythons are cool. I still want to work with them, but they're not as, especially back in those days, they're not as rare and as sought after." But yeah, like,
And they had been bred at that point, right? Timors.
yeah.
So then there wasn't that mystique around them either, of being like the first to do it.
Exactly. So it's like, yeah, they're cool. I'd love to work with them, but like, it's not as, I don't want to say it as special, but you know what I mean? It's
not a Halmahera.
Yeah. So
yeah. That I mean, I could only imagine, especially at that point, having a legitimate shot. And we talked about it a bit in the last episode, but I want to kind of rehash it just because it's such a cool story. So then, from the point of having it even be a realistic opportunity to get these Halmaheras, to the point of actually producing them, how long was that period for you of putting the work in to get to the ultimate goal?
it was several years. I think we got them at the zoo at 2009. And I think it was about 2015 that I started seeing like 2013, 2015, somewhere in there, where I started seeing like more consistent breeding. For several years, it was like there was sporadic breeding. It was mostly, I would notice if we had a big thunderstorm roll through, they might be breeding, but other than that, they might not. And then it kind of became a gradual, I guess, just as they became more comfortable, maybe as I started learning their routines as well, they started getting more breeding. And, there was the first year where the female got real dark. I really thought she ovulated. Thought she went through pre-lay shed.
Yeah.
Went past the lay date, went back in the shed, and was back to normal, And then, yeah, the game that scrub pythons love to play. The next year we got eggs that ended up being fully shelled and fertile. And then the next year had the babies, but then they died at the very end. And then after that was when we were able to successfully hatch them. So
okay.
It was almost a 10-year process.
Yeah. Yeah. Damn. Man, I mean, obviously, zoo setting is a little bit different, but I don't know if anybody has that kind of diligence with a project that is giving them as many challenges as that. I mean, how many people do you hear of putting 10 years in for the first successful reproduction?
Not very often.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why scrub pythons aren't bred more.
Yeah.
Is people lose interest after a short amount of time, because it may take, it's not going to usually take you 10 years necessarily, but
sure.
It might take you 5 years or so, especially if you're growing up from a baby.
Yeah.
And you might have a couple seasons where they look like they're going to do something and then they reabsorb or just not do anything. And I can see people getting kind of frustrated and going, okay, it's not going to happen, and moving on.
Yeah.
No, I'm stubborn, so maybe that's just it.
Yeah. So they were like adult size when you got them originally in 2009 or close to?
Yeah, they were at least 6 to 7 feet, maybe up to 8. And
okay.
When they bred, they were like, the female was like 9 to 10 feet and the males were 10 to 11 at least. So,
that's crazy. Yeah.
And I'm not a power feeder at all. Like they're all pretty lean. But just you feed them correctly, they'll grow like that.
Yeah, I think I remember when you sent me the picture of I believe it was the male. I think you holding the big male, and I was just like, I've never seen a Halmahera even close to that big before. Like, that is incredible.
Yeah, he's a monster, but he's really pretty calm, and they're both into their 20s now.
Yeah.
And they're definitely showing their age, but.
Yeah, I could imagine. I mean, I can only imagine that age, their heads are like freaking, because Halmahera heads in general are pretty big, but a 20-year-old Halmahera has got to be like bigger than your fist.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, I was really lucky. A little over 2 years ago, I saw one of the babies at the Milwaukee Zoo.
Oh yeah.
In the actually 2 of them off exhibit, and I just was like, it was just mind blowing just how perfect these Halmaheras were. They were like a super orange, and it's like, man, this is not only is this history right here, but like these are just like flawless snakes. They're just amazing.
Yeah, the female that produced them is just, I think, one of the best I've ever seen. She's just really light colored and she's really beautiful. And yeah, that kind of brings up the drawback of breeding them at the zoo is, if it was up to me, we would have kept them all.
Yeah.
But of course, management's not like, we're not going to keep all of these. So we, offered up several to other zoos and stuff. But
did you keep any?
We have one, and it's actually on loan at Shane's house right now.
Okay.
Because it was, we just had the lone female. We weren't going to breed her to, her dad or anything. And weren't planning on bringing in any new males right now. So.
Okay. That makes sense. So, I mean, she's got to be right there, ready to go at this point, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He should be able to try it in the near future.
And I see Shane's here in the comments. I wonder if he has any F1 males that are big enough to put with her to be able to potentially hit F2s. And
I think so.
That would be, because Shane's first clutch was it 2021?
I think so.
Okay. I think that's what I think too. So, I mean, could very well be ready to go by now.
I also know he's really busy right now. So he said he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to watch it because he had class, and I told him he was a nerd. So.
But yeah, so 2021. So, man, unrelated F2 Halmaheras. That would be special.
Yeah.
That would be incredible, especially considering what some of the ones that Shane has popped out have looked like. Knowing also how the ones that you produced look, I'm like, man, could get some like orange and gold screaming looking Halmaheras out of that breeding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that very well may happen the next couple of years. Some unrelated F2s. So
yeah, that would be amazing. It was really interesting. One of my babies from this year just had its second shed, and like it, hatched out, looked pretty standard, which wasn't, by no means was I complaining, but its sibling had like a lot more color right off the jump. And this thing just had its second shed and lightened up like 10 shades. It was shocking. Like it just totally different snake at the second shed. I was not expecting it whatsoever, but I'm like, oh my gosh. Like I was even at times looking at that snake like, maybe I could sell this one, and then it's shed. I'm like, oh no, 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 no. I'm definitely not selling you. So,
you produced what, 3 total or 4?
3 total babies, yeah, from 2
Okay.
clutches. I had a third female lay, she slugged out completely, so that was really unfortunate. But yeah, so 2.1 is the ratio, 1 female out of the first, and then 2 males from the second clutch. So yeah, definitely bittersweet because man, 3 babies and out of what ultimately was, including the slugs, like 20 eggs. So yeah, real like, knife across the stomach, but still got 3 Halmahera babies out of it. So I can't really complain.
It's still something not a lot of people have done so far. So it's still a great accomplishment, even though like, yeah, it feels like, oh, this could have been so much better. Like that's still like really big. So I wouldn't be too upset about that.
No, I'm not. What the one that really hurt was that first clutch. 2 eggs made it the distance, and it was like, I think it was day 84. They hatched on 85, the first ones, and I thought I saw what looked like marks on the egg, but I'm like, man, I'll let these go to 90 before I cut them. And the next morning I come down and the other one has its head pipped out, and I immediately cut the other egg open, and the baby was dead. And I'm like,
No.
if I cut that egg yesterday, would this snake have been alive? Because it obviously was pushing on the egg. But then that gets into the debate of like, all right, well, if it didn't have an egg tooth, should it have hatched?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I know I've had people argue that, and I don't know. That's hard for me to do, to just be like, oh, well, if it doesn't have an egg tooth, I don't know. Yeah. I usually wait till something pips, one of them pips, and then I just like slit rest just to make sure. I don't know. I hate the thought of something dying in the egg just because it didn't have an egg tooth. It's not going to really affect it throughout its life. If it doesn't have, it's not like a bad gene you're unless, I don't know, it's more prone to, Ryan Young's in here.
Yeah, Ryan Young is here to judge us. So yeah, he asked why I didn't think it had an egg tooth, and I guess from, honestly, in hindsight, I was too upset to really very closely analyze the situation. But yeah, I guess just because I saw that it looked like it had tried to cut the egg a number of times, and obviously did not. Because like the egg, obviously anyone who's bred pythons know how like they look all dented at the end. The dents kind of like shifted a little bit on that day 84, and I'm like, something's going on in that egg. And the next morning I saw like the marks on the egg, and
it's possible, or for some reason it would.
Maybe it had a very dull egg tooth.
Could have been just a weak hatchling or whatever, and just who knows? It could have been any number of things. So
yeah, well, it is what it is. It's past us now. So when you had the babies hatch out at the zoo, how long did you have them there before any of them got sent out?
Probably about a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in that year, what kind of change did you see in those snakes?
So actually, a little bit after I hatched the eggs, I actually went to another department for a while, so I didn't get to.
Okay.
I basically started getting them going, and then I went to another department. So unfortunately, I missed that
That's a shame.
section, which was unfortunate.
Okay. All right. Well, but I guess then based on, because I think the big thing that is probably a misconception with halmaheras, and could even just be a wording errors, that they don't go through an ontogenic color change. People will say that, but I don't necessarily completely buy into that narrative, because they definitely change. It just isn't orange or red to brown. It's just that to a different orientation of that coloration. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd say it's more like some of the carpet pythons, like the jungles or coastals, where they're not hatching out bright red, but they aren't their adult coloration, and they kind of change throughout the first couple of years. So it's maybe not as dramatic, but they definitely do go through a shift.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I never thought about it like that, but yeah, definitely like a lot like a carpet python, just a much more dull version of what they end up ultimately being. So, okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It really is interesting just how different all the OCCs are within scrub pythons. Even from clutch to clutch sometimes, but definitely between all the different species and localities, they're not all the same, at least in my experience. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think the Biac hatchlings I've seen aren't red either, right?
Yeah. So. Yep. Yeah, I've had a couple smaller individuals, and they're super cool. Just these little tiny baby scrub pythons with these adult colorations, and I've had a couple that have had like blue around like their lips when they're really young. That was really neat, kind of almost like a lace monitor, where they get that a bit of blue right on their nose. But then the adults always kind of have a little bit like a yellowish nose to them. So I don't know if you can see the Beox creeping on the podcast back there.
Yeah, there's a while where, of course, nobody had bred them, and I'm blanking on his name right now, but someone said like, hey, we got in like a really young halmahera, and it's got to be hatchling size, and it's not red.
Was it Rob Stone? Probably.
That's it. Yeah, Rob Stone, and I know he got some flack for that because nobody believed him, so of course, that was always something that, when I was in the process of trying to breed them, it was like, are they going to be red or not?
Yeah.
So like the year that we got eggs and the babies died, it was like, that was opened up. And what are they? And I was like, oh yeah, these aren't red. And so I could tell that then.
Yeah. Did you kind of keep that one close to the vest for a little while after you saw that, before like, all right, I'm going to let the world know when I have actual crawling babies in my hands?
Yeah, pretty much. I didn't want to get too ahead of myself, and it's kind of is this ever going to happen? And so I kind of told some people, but I didn't make a big deal about it. There's also like the whole zoo aspect, where the zoo wants to basically control the information that goes out to an extent, just because of, animal rights activists, things like that. They just want to make sure that something that's being put out there isn't going to look bad on the zoo.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wouldn't necessarily have a problem with me saying, oh yeah, this happened. But I do have to always keep that in mind, that I can't be, if any animal is born at the zoo, we can't go post on the internet, on Facebook or whatever, and do it. The zoo wants to be able to announce it, whether it's, a giraffe or a snake or whatever. So, and that was kind of part of when I successfully bred the halmaheras. I had to wait like a month for them to finally put out something before I could really tell people.
Oh, that would have killed me.
I first told, close friends and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't post anything. It was like a few times I had to be like, come on, like I really want this out there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. When again did they hatch out?
it's in 2018. I think in like November 2018.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It was like I had gotten my first Halmaheras. It was either in February or March of 2019, and like seeing that definitely like gave me I mean, not much because I had never bred scrubs by then, but like a slight little bit more of confidence that, this wasn't me just like throwing money away at snakes that aren't going to establish well and are going to give me a super difficult time, and like there might actually be something to it here. Because the few years that I had been into scrub pythons before that, that was just the narrative of like, this is the one python species that for whatever reason just is impossible. And which I think now in hindsight we've figured it probably isn't quite the case at this point. But I guess back then when you were thinking about the project, what were your thoughts as to why they had been so had eluded success in captivity up to that point? What was your thought process going into it?
I don't know if I was totally sure like what exactly it was that like the reason. I talked to a lot of people and like their theories, and like a lot of people would say, the people that have had success have kept them warmer and like misting them constantly. So that's kind of what I did when I first started working with them. I kept them a little bit warmer because a lot of times they'd come in and they just act like almost lifeless.
Right.
Looking back, I think now a lot of it probably had to do with just how the condition they came in, and they probably had a rough journey from Halmahera to here.
Yeah.
And probably just came in super dehydrated, and maybe a lot of people just didn't even have a chance at that point because they were in such rough shape. And then as the years went, they started bringing them in better condition, probably getting them to the States faster, things like that. Or maybe just, people that importers or whatever, knowing better ways of doing it. So, so it may be more of that than anything.
Yeah.
Because the ones we get in now seem to be in a lot better shape than the ones we originally got in.
Absolutely. Yeah, no question. Especially the younger animals. Like I've, anybody who's dealt with Halmaheras has had their share of heartbreak with said Halmaheras. Anyone who's dealt with Beox will know that a Halmahera is a walk in the freaking park compared to a Beox. But yeah, like the animals that I really had struggles with were ones that came in with a bit more age on them. You get the animal in your hand, it has a big ass head and like a skinny body, and like you said, it had this like lifeless look to the animal, and they can bounce back from that, but man, it's a process. It's a freaking process.
And I think also at that time they were coming in more as adults, and there weren't many young animals coming in.
Yeah.
So those are going to be harder to establish anyways. So what else was I going to say about that? Sorry, I lost it.
No, you're good. Like of that first group that I got one animal in that, to me, it seemed like a huge, like a huge Halmahera. It at the time was probably like 7 to 8 feet long, but its head was like bigger than any Halmahera I've seen since. It was sold to me as a female, which knowing what I know now in hindsight, I would have taken one look at that snake and it said, oh, that is the maliest male that has ever been a male. But that I actually ended up selling that one to Shane, and he I think got at least one clutch sired by him.
Oh yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
And which was really cool to me because that animal was a big wild caught and definitely not a young animal either. So to see that kind of come full circle of, an animal, obviously when you're looking at a female, like if a female was that big coming in, that snake is probably a lost cause forever. But that a male could have some size and come in and, establish enough to, reproduce successfully. So I don't know. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think, initially, like, people were saying you got to keep them warmer, you got to keep them humid. And I think that's just kind of helped with, how rough a shape they were in but even then it was rough. And I found that, get them in at first, doing that helps establish them. But then once they kind of start to seem more established, you can cool them down a little bit or keep them basically more like the rest of scrubs.
So when you are saying warmer and more humid, what exactly is that looking like?
It's more like maybe an ambient more in the mid 80s.
Okay.
Than like low 80s.
Yeah. Okay.
And misting them several times a week. Whereas, most of my other scrubs, you don't necessarily need to do that all that often,
right,
during their sheds, or if it's just really, really dry, things like that.
Yeah.
I noticed with the Halmaharas compared to the other scrubs I had, like you spray them, they would drink every single time. And the other ones wouldn't. So, and they seemed to be, at least at first, more reluctant to drink out of a water bowl. And it seemed more like they kind of really needed the misting.
Makes sense. Okay. Ryan's asking if the cages that are behind you are from him.
I was going to say, Ryan, do you recognize these? I got these from him about probably 20 years ago.
Dang, that's quite the advertisement for the Ryan Young unavailable. You can't buy them reptile cages.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm not even sure if that's true. Maybe if you're in the area, but yeah, those are some nice cages. I gotta say, I'm a big fan. I wish I was able to actually get some, but I would need to get a U-Haul and drive all the way up north. So
yeah, it was easier when I was, was it like 3 hours away from where they live.
Sorry, Ryan's clarifying that he didn't build them, but he bred Nada in them.
Yeah, I remember the first time when I went over to his house and saw them, and we were talking about me getting them, there was Nada in them. So
okay,
still scrubs in them.
What are the dimensions of those cages?
They're about 6 feet long, and 2 feet deep, and about, I think, 16 inches tall.
Okay. And
there's a divider in the center, and there's a little trap door that you can pull in or out. And so, like, if I want to breed things, I can have male on one side, female on the other side, and open it up in between.
Cool. That's awesome. What do you have in there now?
Right now is the from Ryan Young, a pair of Tanamaras up here. And then normally I have my Jayapura male down on the bottom one, taking up the whole one, but he's in with the female right now, so it's empty.
Very nice. Very nice. So yeah, I guess to kind of get into a little bit of your personal work with scrub pythons, were they something that you were always interested in, or was that mentor in college kind of the one who really opened your eyes to scrub pythons?
Yeah, it was really Robert, my mentor, and then also, then getting to know Nick and Ryan and Yasser really helped point me that way. And, I just immediately fell in love with their big kind of blocky heads with their big scales and everything. I thought that was like so cool. And then, the more I looked into them, I found them to be so beautiful. And, so I got my first one back in 2005, I think.
Okay.
20 years ago. And so this clutch here is kind of a, I guess, full circle moment, or, so my first scrub I ever got was a captive hatched red southern scrub python, female from, I believe it was L Reptiles at the time, and got it before it even had its first shed or anything, which at the time when I bought it, I didn't realize it was going to be, that fresh, but, it still had that like shiny skin. And so basically had to raise that from hatchling. And then shortly after that, I picked up a captive bred male from Jim Kurowski. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all. He's kind of been out of it for a few years now, but he was the original, the creator of MoreliaPythons.com.
Okay.
Owner of that. He kept a lot of scrubs back in the day, and he produced a clutch of Southerns at that time, and
Okay.
I got a male from him. And so they were kind of the ones that locality that started it, and was finally able to breed some of that locality. So kind of had like, I don't know, some bad luck with the Southerns throughout the years. So that female, when I went for my internship, I left her in the care of my friend, because I couldn't obviously take any of my collection with me. So I had kind of reduced my collection quite a bit to what I really wanted to keep, because I was going to be gone for 3 months, and then asked a few people to take care of them. And unfortunately, the female passed during that time. And instead of kind of getting another female, I ended up selling the male. And then it was several years before I got Southerns again, and got a real young female. Well, it was actually supposed to be a roux, and it was a baby. And then as I got older, I realized, no, this is just a Marook. And
that happened to me too.
It happens a lot. Well, not so much anymore, because they don't seem to come in very often, and nobody even knows what they are. But yeah, that happened a lot when a roux were coming in fairly often, because as a hatchling, they look mostly the same. You can kind of tell with like the rosettes and stuff. Like, when it's in a roux, you can tell it's in a roux.
The color is a bit different too. I found it was a bit of a different shade. Yeah, but I guess if you're looking at two imports side by side, it could be challenging. But hatching out the Aru clutch, I was like, yeah, this is different. It's subtle, but it is different. It was really cool.
Yeah, I never had a roux that young though. Had some that were fairly young, but not like almost hatchling. So yeah, and I had that female, and then I got a male that was really nice, like real reduced pattern, and had like a pretty cool stripe. And kind of tried breeding them for a few years, and kind of wasn't getting anything, and wasn't sure why. And then I paired them up one time, came back in my room a little bit later, and I was like, oh great, they're finally like trying to breed. Then I realized, oh, that's the female trying to breed the male. And sure enough, I had two males. And so kind of had these two adult males that are raised from fairly young, and kind of was like, okay, usually when I try and do scrubs, I want, or really anything, I want a young female or young pair to grow up. I prefer to do it that way. And so I was like, instead of then getting another young female and raising it up, I ended up selling both of them off. And then got this pair I have now a couple years ago from a friend in the area that was, his life got kind of busy for him, and he decided to get out of snakes. And so decided to get them.
Okay.
And, I was able to try and breed them the last couple of years, and was finally successful this year. So kind of a long journey to this point.
Yeah, man, sure sounds like it, but definitely worth it. Especially with these snakes, just the gratification at the end is just, it's so worth the process and all the heartbreak along the way. At least to me, I think so. More than other species that I've worked with.
Yeah, and the Southerns were the original one that really I drew to, and just really like them for some reason, even though they're not the flashiest or anything. Like when I first started looking into scrubs, just for whatever reason, they really caught my attention, and I really liked them.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the one when I found that someone had some captive hatched babies, I was like, okay, well that sounds like a good one to start with. So. Yeah.
I agree that they're definitely underrated. Overall, like for me, when I was first getting into scrub pythons, the first one that really grabbed my attention was one that probably classify as underrated, kind of the more reduced pattern bar necks that were like really pushed as maniquari at the time. I think most people now who are into scrub pythons, they like bar necks. They want the really high contrast gold, and nothing against that. That's pretty great, but to me, there's something about that muted pattern where if you look close enough, like the middle of the scales are all the same color. It's just outlines on the bars that are making those darker. Just the subtlety of that was just really, really cool. So, but yeah, I think that's what's so great about them is that just with the wild types alone, you have like 20 phenotypes that you can choose from.
Yeah.
with scrub pythons. Like, I think one of, physiologically not really, but as far as location wise goes, obviously the species that you can really most closely draw a comparison to are green tree pythons. And throughout that range, it's like, they're different, but like kind of, these ones might be a little blue, these a little white, these a little yellow, but like they're all pretty similar. Where like from Iron Range to Halmahera, you're like, what?
Yeah.
Nothing alike whatsoever. That's just, I thought that was so cool about them as well, just how naturally variable they were.
Yeah. And yeah, speaking of the barnecks, so some of the favorites I've ever seen are like the Dave Prada line barnecks, which I think you have at least one or two of that are real dark. Like they get like pretty much like black tails. I've always thought that was the coolest look, and I've always kind of wanted to do a dark barneck project like that.
Yeah.
And kind of maybe select more towards that. So.
Yeah. I remember there's an animal that you ended up getting that a notorious scrub python broker of the past had, that I had purchased, and I got a different snake. I was like, gosh, the one that was in that picture was like, oh, that one went to a zoo. I'm like, oh, you motherfucker. But that snake, holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Unfortunately, he passed, and I've learned not to buy from that person again. It can be hard when he was, or at least allegedly, selling something that looks amazing like that, but I'm sure half the time you don't get what you were supposed to. But.
Yeah, 100%. I'm glad that those days are past us. But the darker barneck project, it is something that I can't really say I have anything that's like too extreme in that direction. I had a female that she was like, she just passed this year. She was probably pushing 20, but was like solid black, almost like 95+% black, but none of her offspring ever had that appearance. And what was weird, and I'm still kind of in the process of figuring it out, there almost seems to be some sort of like axanthic mutation that popped out of her in some of the babies, where they're like silvery, purpley, almost kind of like, I've one female that damn near looks like an axanthic clasto after it's lost some of its baby color. But light, which is weird. But then TJ Chambers last year had a clutch of barnecks that are like some of the darkest captive bred babies I've ever seen. So it's cool to know that there are some out there that are going in that direction. But yeah, that like, especially on like the line animals, where on the head scales, like the lines separating all the scales, it's almost like the ink is like bleeding through the lines onto the scale. It's such an amazing look. Yeah, that's so cool.
And that's what's so could be so crazy with scrub pythons is so little selective breeding has been done with them.
Yeah,
it's rare to see F2s of any of them. And so I mean they just have that such a natural variation. Like with selective breeding, you could really do so much with the group. Most people don't stick with it long enough to really be able, like, okay, I can select towards this or that and kind of line breed or that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to think that now that scrubs are becoming more popular, there are more people who are into it, that we will start to see some of that actually really take hold. I mean, as someone who's been doing scrub pythons for damn near as long as I've been alive, I mean, what have you seen as far as the trend of their popularity in the hobby over time?
Yeah, I mean, you'd go nuts for what they went for back in the.
Oh yeah, I don't think about it. I'm like, I would lose my mind thinking about that too long. Yeah,
it's crazy. I mean, it's they've gone up, 10 times basically.
Yeah.
So the what was his name? Rolf Kern, who produced the first clutch of Moluccan pythons. I remember him selling them for $550 a pair.
A pair. Ooh. That's yeah, I was gonna say, oh, $550 each. So they've gone up tenfold in the past however long, but no, they've actually gone up 20-fold.
Yep.
That was the pair price. So yeah, that's and that had to be what, early 2000s around then?
It was mid 2000s, probably 2006 maybe.
Okay.
Sorry, I had messed with the lights. I had
no worries.
Plugged in the computer, and I wasn't thinking about it. I plugged it into a timed outlet, and I just got a notification that my battery was running low. So I had to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I literally have the same exact setup here where I plug my computer into like one of the surge protectors. I have lights on, and they're two right next to each other. The one's in a timer and one's not. And I gotta be pretty careful about where I'm plugging it in. So yeah, man. So that from that point of 2006 to now there's a wild caught Clasto on Morph Market right now for $3,500. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I don't want to necessarily try to sound like I'm saying anything bad or not, but like I swear the ones back in the day looked a lot better than the ones we're getting now. The ones the wild caughts that I see for sale.
Sure, no question. Yeah.
Not necessarily talking about the one that's on there right now.
Overall.
I'm just saying overall, like.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
I just remember like some of the ones coming in look really nice, or maybe people are just getting them in, and I'm sure certain people are like, well, I can get a lot of money for this, so I can just turn around and sell it. I don't think everybody's doing that, but
no.
I just feel like a lot of the ones I'm seeing now are a little rougher.
Yeah. Which, like when I was first getting into scrubs, Moluccans were still available imported for like a couple of years. And I did get a couple. And I mean, like, man, they were fantastic, especially ones that were small, because they obviously they don't look super special when they're tiny babies. And then give them a couple of sheds and you're just like,
yeah,
whoa. And then they get to be 4 years old and then they're like, kind of go downhill a little bit.
Yeah.
But and yeah, that's Lisa has a good point that they keep the nice ones now. And I think a lot of the nice ones are also going to Japan and Korea. Because I've seen quite a few keepers over there pop up with some good scrub python collections, and they have some killer Clastos.
Yeah, I've definitely seen them. Yeah.
So I'm like, that's where all of our nice Clastos are going.
Yeah.
They're in Japan and Korea now. Good for them.
Yeah.
So, but I guess, what's your take on them being more popular in the hobby, and I guess even now more popular with like pet keepers?
Yeah. I don't love it in certain ways just because, like the prices skyrocketed. And I think kind of when it gets to that point, it does them a disservice a bit. Like, kind of like with Boland's pythons and how ridiculous their prices have gone, it's up to, 10,000. I don't know. It kind of seems like some people getting into them for the wrong reason. Back in the day, it just seemed like it, people liked them, but it wasn't anything necessarily like they're put on, such a high pedestal now compared to the rest of the scrubs that like.
I mean, like just about scrub pythons in general, though, because I feel like Clastos are kind of, they're like it's like Clastos and then like the rest of scrub pythons for whatever reason. I guess it makes sense. If you see a picture of a really beautiful 3-year-old gold and purple Clastolepis, like
exactly,
it's pretty phenomenal. But what I never understood is that they got as popular as they did, rightfully so. but they are the only scrub python that hits a point where they start to decline in coloration.
Yeah.
So why did the masses pick the only one that does that? Like an otter is going to look its best when it's 18 years old or 20 years old.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that thing is never going to decline, or a barnack, like that snake is never going to decline, but that clasto is going to, no matter what. So
because at their peak, they're arguably the prettiest ones, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I can understand that bit. So, but it's, you know, I don't know, like what Shane and I kind of have, what our goal kind of has been with the Halmaheras is we're not trying to necessarily breed a bunch of them just to get them out. Like we've always kind of been like, we want to make sure these are going to people that want to work with Halmaheras.
Yeah.
We want to, you know, basically get a good established captive bred population. Not necessarily just, you know, go put them out for a high price. And to anybody that wants to pay it, you know, we want to, if they're going to somebody, that has a passion for them, that seems, you know, knowledgeable enough with them and knows, you know, how to really just responsibly work with them, you know.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
We don't want them just be like, I don't know. We talked about several times, like, well, if you were to sell one of them, what would it go for? And we're like, I don't even know. It's hard to even put a number on it because
there's no reference point to go off of with that. It's just like,
and it never was about that for us, you know. I mean, neither of us have ever made a dime off of selling Halmaheras, so so it was always just, you know. So I think kind of what I'm getting at is with something like Moluccans, where it's so highly sought after and the price has gotten so high that the mindset can be more of, I want to make money off of this than this is a really cool species that is not very commonly brought in, not very commonly kept. How can we make sure we can establish this? And so we don't have to rely on wild caught ones, or, you know, so that these are around. How many, you know, python species have we lost or almost lost to in captivity? Dunn's pythons were gone, and Ryan somehow miraculously brought them back from the dead. And you know, him and a few other people have kind of have resurrected that. And you know, there's a lot of things like that it's like, oh, everything was common, and then all of a sudden it's gone.
Yeah, and that's, you know, I was going to use Liasis as an example, but I mean, Liasis, the, you know, white lips, ring pythons, I feel like, that's like, there's like that, the cycle of death with those species. If they get really popular for a few years, people want them, a few people breed them, and then all of a sudden it's just like radio silence for a while. And then all of a sudden people are like, hey, where'd all the ring pythons go? And it's like, I don't know. Where did they all go? You just stopped caring about them for a little while. Like, what the hell? So, I mean, and, you know, we could just be in a good period, but I like to think, at least with some of the scrub pythons, we're probably past the point of having to worry about that. Like with Barnacks and Southerns and, you know, Wamina Jaipura types, like they've been bred enough, and like enough people care enough about them to where it's hard to imagine. And I think probably at this point, Halmaheras as well. Not that there's that many out there, but the people who do have them are like super passionate, dialed in, you know, you, Shane, myself, etc. That like, I doubt that would ever happen. But I mean, I guess you've been around longer than I have. What are your thoughts as far as that aspect of it goes?
As far as like the Halmaheras and just like,
or just in general, like concerns about them potentially being in that camp of Timor pythons or Duns or whatever, of something that, you know, we had for a while, kind of got overlooked again, and now is just kind of obscure.
Yeah, and I think most of them, seem to be, at least at this point, mostly safe from that. The two I really worry about are the Moluccans and the Tannenbars.
Yeah.
are just really rarely being brought in.
Cannon bars are not.
Couple years ago, I contacted Dan Maliri and was like, "Hey, like, what's going on with this? Like, I haven't seen any." And he was like, "Yeah, they're really hard to get. There's really just not many people going out and getting them."
Yeah.
There used to be, his name's Vladimir, and I always forget his last name. Ryan Young might be able to chime in and say his last name, but he ran a big farm in Indonesia.
Yeah.
The Bushmaster's farm. And he, from what I understood, he really liked a lot of these scrubs.
Okay.
So he would keep
cool.
pairs of all of them. And so we actually, he would supply the US with like fairly steady stream of captive hatched ones of these. And, he unfortunately died a few years ago. And I think that seems to be when a lot of that stopped coming in as much.
Okay, that makes sense. What wasn't his last name Odenchenko?
Yeah, I knew it started with an O.
My familiarity with Vladimir before he passed away, I didn't know him personally, but like his name for me was just synonymous with green tree pythons. So I didn't know that he was that into scrub pythons, but that definitely makes a lot of sense. Hey, I got it right. Another scrub breeder extraordinaire, Brian Fisher, helping us out. We got quite the scrub python live chat going on tonight. Got Ryan in here, we got Shane in here, Lisa, Ryan Fisher. We got some players in the scrub python game here with us tonight. Pretty cool. But okay, but that definitely makes sense. Because I remember when I was first like really getting into scrubs, and just always on fauna and king snake and whatnot, just seeing what pops up. I felt like tandem bars are the ones that I saw the most as it's like 2015. And then like right as soon as I started actually putting a collection together, gone.
Yeah.
And I think it was 7 years before I was able to get my hands on my first tandem bars. And like just where I was even able to buy one, not even find like, that one might be a little too big for what I want, or, I'd really want a xanthic. These are all xanthic patternless. It's like one tandem bar of any sorts available in the United States.
Exactly.
It just fell off a cliff. Worse than Clastos did, worse than Arus, like, which was so strange because I feel like even like listening to some of the old NPR shows when I was getting into scrub pythons, the feeling was that tandem bars were common, relatively speaking. Like tandem bars, southern scrubs were like the ones that you can get.
Yeah.
And then, Halmaheras, Clastos are the ones that like maybe aren't quite as common or a little bit more pricey, but back then pricey for a Clasto was $600, where a tandem bar was like $300.
Yeah.
So it's all relative, but
yeah, there was a while where we were getting in, it seemed like a clutch of captive hatch roos would come in, and captive hatch, tandem bars and occasional Moluccans and stuff like that. And it was because Vladimir was just liked them, and he would breed them and send the clutch to the States. So, unfortunately, we don't have that anymore.
No. But I guess the good thing we do have is an unprecedented amount of captive breeding in the U.S. happening at this point.
Yeah.
I think 2025 was a bit of a downturn, but I think in 2024 I counted like 23 scrub clutches in the U.S. that year.
Wow. Yeah, that's
crazy considering when I was first getting into it, like one was like, oh my God, someone bred scrubs this year. That's freaking cool.
Yeah, that typically it was, there was one, maybe, up to 3 clutches in the entire US of, Southerns are Barnecks, but then the occasional tandem bar or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Which the tandem bars were some of the first ones that were produced in captivity, right?
Yeah, the Barkers did it really early 2000s, I believe.
And I know that this guy did it very early on as well in the timeline.
Ryan will correct us, or just say no.
Well, I think it was something else.
I don't remember if I mentioned this in the last podcast when we were talking about Halmaheras. But what was really neat was the first scrub pythons ever produced in the U.S. Were kinghorni, and that was at the Oklahoma City Zoo.
Oh.
And that was, I think it was in like an 88.
Dang.
Something like that. So it's kind of cool that like two species of scrub pythons have been produced for the first time at the same place.
Yeah.
Obviously, I had nothing to do with the kinghorni. I was, 4. So, but it was just kind of cool that the zoo here kind of is a neat place for that.
Yeah. Do you know by chance how big their adults were that they bred back in the day?
I know they were really big. No one ever told me like an exact measurement or anything, but like my friend that didn't work back then, but he worked at the zoo for a long time, but he hadn't worked there yet. Actually, he did work with them for a little bit, but he said they were just absolutely massive. They're in the exhibit. They were in the exhibit that we now have our big retic. So
okay. Yeah. Yeah, man, what a shame. I mean, I think about it from time to time. Like, what if we did have kinghorni around in the U.S. hobby? Because I feel like most scrub pythons, especially if you don't feed them like a retic, most competent python keepers, I think, can handle a scrub python, especially if they've raised it from a baby, etc. But kinghorni, on the other hand, I feel like that would be like, it would be such a like a novelty to the ones of us who are obsessed with scrub pythons. But like, what if there were 3 clutches of kinghorni produced in the States in a year, and some were just sitting? It's like, now who do I sell these monster snakes to?
Exactly.
So I don't know. I don't want to say that. Like, I think it's kind of unfortunate that we don't have access to them. But if there was one for us to not have access to for the sake of like the hobby, probably would have to put kinghorni in that slot there.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, and back when I first started at the zoo, and I found out that we had bred them, I did my best to try and track any that might still be down. They bred them for a couple years in a row, and they sold them off to whoever. And I just came up with dead ends everywhere. So
yeah,
unfortunately, those all seem to be long gone.
Yeah, I don't know if they are still there. I was at the 2 females that are Reptile Gardens.
Yeah,
I was there in 2021 and I saw them. But to my knowledge, those are the only 2 that are in the States, period. Unless anyone's really, really hiding some that they're not supposed to have. But
yeah, that's always a possibility.
Yeah, yes, it is. You can never count that out. But the Barkers had kinghorni at some point, right? So I know Eugene Bissett did. He said so on one of the podcasts he did on this channel.
And I know Bob Clark did about the same time that the zoo had.
Okay, I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yeah.
Did Bob ever have success with them?
Not that I've heard. I don't think so.
Okay, he probably tried to feed him like a retic and
probably.
Well,
so, I couldn't say if the Barkers did or not. Okay.
Ryan,
I was about to say Ryan would know if anybody.
Yep, they did. So yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? I guess, but at least we have copious amounts of Southerns, which are essentially pretty much a smaller version of the same thing. So
yeah.
But yeah, which is interesting because I love when people be like, oh, I love kinghorni. That'd be my dream scrub python. It's like, do you want a Maruki? I'm like, eh.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, what the hell? Like, it's the same snake.
Because the rookies are easy to get.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, all right, I guess.
Fruit.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ryan says Gary Braddock had the last pair he knew of that were alive when he got into the hobby. So, yep, that's that, I guess. Unfortunate, but what are you gonna do? So over time, what are all the different species and locality types that you have worked with within scrub pythons?
I've worked with most of them.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of Southerns. I've had several Arus over the years, a few Barnecks, Tannenbars, Moluccans, obviously Halmaheras. And I have Tannemaras, and then never worked with the either Tamika or I hate calling them Highlands.
Yeah.
So, but I haven't worked with any of those or Biacs.
Okay.
But yeah, most of the others I've at least worked with.
Okay.
A little bit.
And I guess not counting Halmaheras, if you had to pick a favorite out of all of those, again, you cannot say Halmahera. What would you have to say?
Just got to check one more time. Can I say a Halmahera?
No, not right now. We need something else.
Then I'd go with Tannenbar.
Okay.
I really love Tannenbars, and that's like really top on my list to work with again. Some of the meanest, I kind of mentioned this in the pre, some of the meanest scrubs I've had were Tannenbars, where they would just, you try and hook them, they would just wrap that hook and they would just sit there and strike at you, where, most scrubs, they might try and, flee or whatever. And, but they would just stand and fight and like, won't even get off the hook. Just, I want to bite you. But I had a few others that were super calm and you could just pick them right up. But I always found them really fun. They stayed pretty, small, and you gotta love the variation, the axanthic and xanthic, and patternless and patterned.
And what I didn't realize about them until keeping them was, obviously anyone who knows scrub pythons knows of the 4 distinctive color phases, but then it doesn't stop there. Like the color spectrum within the xanthic and axanthic is shocking. Like, super cool, dark axanthics all the way to like damn near like purple axanthics, and the xanthic spectrum going from like dark brown to light gold to like orange. So,
and even with the like patternless, like I don't know if I've ever really seen a patternless Tannenbar that was truly 100% patternless.
Yeah, there's always
some sort of little striping or whatever, and
something going on.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the hobby really does need more Tannenbars. That's for sure. But yeah, when I was first working with them, we had a little Tannenbar conversation before the podcast that everyone here can just regret not having heard. But yeah, just like behavior wise, I feel like they were, at least up front for me, very different than the other scrub pythons that I've kept. Because I feel like you have like everything, and then Halmaheras and Biaks, especially when they're like fresh, are very different. And then Tannenbars are like I kind of compared them like a white lip python or something like that. It seemed a little more flighty, seemed a little more like agitated, not quite as willing to stand their ground as a barneck or something like that. But then, like you said, just posted up on the hook, just doing their best to kill you. They're amazing though. Lisa said that the male that she got from Eric is developing a dark tail, which is very defensive. Shout out to Eric Hernandez for producing an incredible clutch of Tannenbars this year. And we all get to be envious of Lisa that she got a baby from that clutch. So, oh man.
So I'm not aware of anybody else that's bred them in the last couple of years.
No. I don't think anyone has. Probably the last person who produced them before Eric was probably Chris Foley in like 2019, 20 or so. But But unfortunately, the animals that he produced from, and he talked about this on the podcast he did, so I'm not just airing out his business because he said it here, but the male that sired one or two of the clutches that he had seemed to have some sort of like congenital issue, weird neuro thing that passed on to the babies. So unfortunately, none of them ended up being too long-term viable. They like just wouldn't grow well and just had some problems. But yeah, it's been, I feel like it's at least in the time that I've been into scrub pythons in the States. I know that there's somebody in Europe who's produced in the last couple of years that I feel like I've seen. But in the States, at least, I feel like it was Chris produced them a couple of times, and then Eric has produced them 4 times now. I think he's gotten 4 clutches, or I think it's
3 or 4. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, that's phenomenal. So
there was a guy who was also in Washington, good friends of Nick and Ryan, that Edgar Fortune, he bred them several times back in
the
2000s. I'd gotten a few males from him back in the day. They were really nice. They're all patternless axanthic. They were some of the nicest axanthic ones you've ever seen. So.
Wow. Like bright colored? What made them so special?
Yeah, kind of like bright silver. I'll have to find some old photos and send it to you.
Yeah, please do.
They were really nice.
That's awesome. Okay. So then at this point, what does your scrub collection look like in total?
So Halmaheras, I've got the pair of Tanamaras, Jayapuras, and yeah, the Southerns, the Marukis.
I can't tell if he's thinking or frozen.
We're good.
All right. I think I got you back now.
Okay.
I couldn't tell if you were frozen or just really thinking about it for a second.
Yeah, I saw some like spinning wheels of doom, or you know, so I wasn't sure if I was there or not. So,
okay.
Yeah, and then just a really old female barneck that definitely is kind of past her prime at this point, unfortunately.
Okay. Okay. Are you, do you have aspirations of adding more species or localities to that group, or are you pretty satisfied with where you're at?
I always want more. But yeah, as I said, Tanabars would be at top of the list. Love Muckins again. That's kind of one like with their price point. It's like I don't know when I'm ever going to want to drop that on one. So
yeah,
we'll see if that happens again.
Yeah.
Love to get more Barnecks. I don't know, like kind of southern forms. Like I'm kind of good on them, but might not pass up an Aru if I have the chance to get one of those.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'd just be kind of into the other ones that I don't have right now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, to me, it's. I think I'd have to put the Arus as my favorite southern form scrub. They're so cool. I love them. They're awesome.
Yeah, they're probably my favorite of the southerns as well. So
they're like orange diamond pythons. That's how I like to describe them.
Yeah.
Take a diamond python pattern, just overlay it orange with like a purple tail, and yeah, I've always thought that their beauty was right up there, comparable with Clastos, just kind of like substitute gold for orange, and it's pretty similar snake.
So kind of something with the Arus back when they were around more and people actually kind of knew what they were, and they were, a little bit sought after, not as much as like the Moluccans are now. But there was a while where people kept on saying they had type 2 Arus, and it drove me nuts.
I got on that.
Because it really was just Marukis that they wanted to call Arus, that they were trying to will into being Arus, and it drove me nuts. But that's kind of, since not many people know Arus anymore, that's kind of died off, thankfully. Hopefully I didn't just accidentally.
Well, no, I was going to say, I think you're the first person I've heard say type 2 Aru in at least like 6-7 years. So
yeah.
So yeah, yeah, Lisa, key scrubs they're definitely southern as well. I've seen people try to label them as class Telepus, and my blood starts to boil when I see that. So yeah, they just have a similar coloration, but everything about those animals is essentially just an Aru. Or yeah, it's like a golden Aru. It's basically what they are. I mean, not just like that's pretty freaking cool, but yeah, they're definitely
I believe the Key Island's pretty close to Aru. It's not that
yeah,
far.
geographically is super close. And then if you look at the map, I mean, it's south, but Tannenbar is in between Saram and Key. So yeah. I guess it makes sense if you're somebody in Indo or even somebody who's like, moving animals through, and you see a key scrub, if you don't know any better, I can understand why somebody would say, oh, that looks like a different locality of Classilepus. Like, yeah, I guess, but do a little bit of research and you understand why it's not. But and then physiologically, it's just they're a southern scrub. Like Class has a very distinctive adult form from the rest of scrub pythons. Like those big, beefy alien heads and proportionally kind of rounder bodies that it's hard to really mistake that for anything else. And the keys are not that way. So, yeah, I guess, this is Ryan's comment to the type 2 Aru. Because that didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me when I was first getting into them. I saw like type 1, type 2 Aru, and I'm just like, that's not the biggest island in the world. You wouldn't think that there would be these two distinctive phenotypes. Like, and like, what's the difference then? What's the difference between type 1 and type 2? Is there some sort of geographic barrier that?
Right. It made absolutely no sense. So it drove me nuts. I would look at it and like, that's just a Maruki. That you just really want to be a Naru. So yeah, I hate
gotta love it. So we'll keep type 2 Aru dead forever.
Yes.
The official funeral of it. So I kind of want to get into a little bit on the clutch that you just had. So you said they're just a couple weeks old now. How old are the adults? I guess, or how old were they when they finally bred for you?
I'm not sure on age. They were wild caught.
Okay.
And I got them from my friend. The female was already a decent size. She was, probably about 8 feet. He had her for several years. The male was still pretty young. Like when I got him, he was still eating like adult mice. And then I was able to get him onto small rats soon after that. And he kind of grew up pretty quick. But he's still like 6-7 feet, somewhere in there. So he's still pretty young. Probably, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years old. Female's probably a little older than that. She's maybe up to 9 feet now, 8 to 9 feet.
Nice.
So she's decent size, but not huge.
Yeah. Okay. So, you definitely had the last clutch of scrub pythons to hatch for the year here in the States. When were they breeding?
So I don't think they really started until like May.
Okay.
And that's something like I've kind of noticed that for some reason at my house that my scrubs want to breed super late. They may not even start until May. And same with my Jayapuras last year. I paired them up and they didn't do anything until about the same time.
Wow.
And they bred, but they didn't produce anything. They're still young. Female was like 4.5. Male was right at 4. So it's kind of for them, it was let's just see if we can get through just some of the routine and just maybe prepare for next year or something.
Sure.
Like that's years ago when I got Jayapura eggs or Wamena eggs, whatever you want to call that locality. Historically Wamena. Yes. It was I wasn't getting anything from them, and then one year I kind of didn't pull them apart when I usually did. Kind of would go through the whole cooling cycle and all that, and then warm them up, and then nothing would happen. And I would go, okay, nothing's going on this year. But then, like, I just, for whatever reason, kept them longer, and then they started breeding and produced a clutch of eggs that, unfortunately, she became egg bound. So I didn't hatch any. So kind of same thing with this year. They bred last year a little bit, but didn't produce anything. Then this year, I just kind of kept them together, and there's maybe a little bit of action throughout my cooling period and then warming up. But then it was like May, all of a sudden they just start breeding like crazy, and she develops follicles. So whatever reason here, just I seem to run later than everybody else. And maybe it has to do with Oklahoma. We get a lot of thunderstorms in May. Late April, early May, and which, anybody that's tried to breed scrub pythons, if you have a storm roll through, that usually is a good trigger for for them to breed.
No doubt. Yeah.
As I said with the Homaharas, like in the beginning, the only time I saw them breed the first couple of years was during thunderstorms. So I don't know if that has something to do with it. I think it very well could be. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So then throughout the year, are you doing any sort of extended fasts with your adults?
I often may do more of a fast during the middle of the summer. When it's super hot, and then actually feed them heavier during the cooling period. And coming out of it. So just that in some ways makes more sense to me. So because when it's in the wild, it'd be like a hot, dry period. There's not going to be as much food out, so they're not going to be feeding as much. But when it kind of cools down, the monsoons and everything's out, and there's going to be a lot of, it's be cooler. There's, with all the rain, there's going to be more prey out, and that's when they're feeding a lot, and that's when they may be more likely to breed. When things are good, during breeding, I try and simulate the good times that they, because if things are good, there's a lot of food, reptiles are going to want to say, oh, it's a great time, let's breed or whatever. There's, a drought and food is scarce. They're going to say, I'm going to take the year off. So that's kind of my thoughts with it. And I kind of do that with everything I'm trying to breed, whether it's a tortoise or, a snake or whatever. Years ago at the zoo, I bred Speaks hingeback tortoises. Which really cool.
Those are neat.
Basically like box turtles of Africa. And I would kind of food cycle them. I noticed in the winter, in our winter here, they would kind of shut down. And so I would keep it a little bit drier, and I would feed them more just salad. I'd still feed them that, of course. But then during the summer here, they would be a lot more active. And so I'd rain on them a lot more, but then also introduce a lot more protein into their diet. They're omnivorous. And so I would do a lot more of the worms and, mice and things like that to produce more protein. And I had pretty good success breeding them for a while doing it that way. So.
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. Definitely does. Yeah, those are really cool tortoises. That's one thing that I used to keep some tortoises and haven't since, but like I really appreciate so many of the different, kind of less common hingeback, spider stars, all that. Anything with like a really neat pattern or different shell, like kind of, orientation is always really, really neat to me. So
I have I have a Burmese mountain tortoise.
Oh, cool.
He's really cool. That's my favorite species of tortoise. But one of the benefits of working at a zoo is I get to work with a lot of species of tortoise, including, Galapagos tortoises. And we even have some plowshare tortoises.
Shit. Wow. That's amazing.
We, our director is a big tortoise guy. So he's kind of helped us throughout the years, get more tortoises and get some really cool stuff.
I don't think I've seen a plowshare tortoise with my own eyes in person.
Probably not.
Yeah.
We have them, and then is it Knoxville? I think that has some, and I
Okay.
think that's pretty much it for the U.S.
Isn't there some like tortoise preservation something place that works with them, or is that maybe something overseas I'm thinking about?
I don't. There's like TSA or TTPG. I mean, they work with them
Maybe,
in the wild, but
Okay.
I don't think they have them at their complex
Okay.
or anything like that. And I don't know about any place else overseas. I couldn't
Got it.
comment.
How big are they?
They're decent size. They're basketball pretty much.
Yeah. They're just those tall carapaces are just so cool. Like that's just
Yeah, they're really cool tortoises. No,
I feel like, especially for somebody who's not a super tortoise nerd, like super easy to, look at a radiated tortoise and have your attention go there over a plowshare tortoise, which is, not the most colorful tortoise in the world, but then just with just how unique their body structure is, and they get a good bit bigger than radiateds, correct?
Our plowshares are probably a little bit smaller than our radiateds, but I think
Okay.
most of them are still growing.
Okay. I could be wrong too, but Ryan says that I think it's so Honolulu and then the Tortoise Trust have them to his knowledge. So, but yeah, I don't know. Nothing wrong with the tortoise tangent in the middle of a Python podcast. Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know that you guys had plowshares, so that's pretty incredible. But I guess to circle back around to scrub pythons.
Yeah, sorry.
So then, if you're doing that summer fast period, when are you reintroducing the food?
Usually in September, October.
Okay.
I kind of do feed them kind of heavy coming into. Usually start introductions of everything December 1st and start cooling down then. So kind of do a ramp up, like feeding well after the fast, leading up to that, and then throwing them together.
Okay.
And then during the cooling period, I'll still feed it, maybe not like a ton. It kind of depends on just how the snakes are acting.
Okay.
Like this girl, like when they've really started breeding, I could tell like she was kind of going into, she really wanted to feed more. Normally if I walk in here, she's going to be kind of eyeing me and just, like all scrubs do, and just seeing if I'm going to feed them. But like,
yeah,
it would get to the point where she's more like coming straight at the door. Like, are you feeding me? Like, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
And then that's when I kick into kind of feeding more often.
Okay.
Like might be every week or every other week, real small meals, just to kind of like, kind of help promote, and I guess the follicle development.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, that they seem to be wanting to build that. They seem to be wanting. I noticed this with the Halmahair as well. I always knew when she was building, because I would open up her exhibit door and she would come flying out at me. And so it just seems like they were wanting extra food to help build. And I would want to do it often, but yeah, very small meals, because obviously I don't want to overfeed them or anything. But that, to me, that always seemed to help and just help build towards ovulation. Okay.
And then what time of year are you typically seeing that behavior start to manifest?
Usually occurs about May, June.
Okay, so like right as you were really seeing the majority of the action.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So for that point, they have been kind of feeding to some, in some interval for like what, 6-7 months at that point.
Yeah. So more like, it might be once a month. I don't have necessarily a set schedule for anything.
Okay.
But just say on average, probably feed them about once a month.
Okay.
But sometimes might be more like 2 weeks. Sometimes it might be more like 6 weeks,
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Okay, cool. Ryan clarified turtle conservancy, not tortoise trust
Okay.
with the plowshares. Okay. So then what is your incubation setup looking like for these eggs once you get them? Are you keeping the clutch clumped together? Were you separating them? How did you do the egg setup?
I keep them all together. I know you can pull them apart, but I'm always like hesitant to, because I'm always paranoid I'm gonna
Yeah.
rip them or something. Unlikely, but I just prefer leave them together.
Yeah.
There was so she laid 13 eggs. One after a couple weeks went bad, so I had to pull that one off, and was always nervous doing that. But that one broke, but the good eggs didn't.
Okay.
And it just ended up being infertile.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never just pulled apart an egg mass just to do it.
Yeah.
It's just me. I'm sure other people are more comfortable with that, but I prefer to just leave them alone.
Yeah. It's not a fun process. I did it for a couple of clutches and was just like, there just was no point really. And I did it in 2024 on a clutch that was laid. It looked great. And then I candled the eggs and like half of them were just empty. So I did it just in case, didn't want those eggs affecting the good eggs, which they shouldn't. And there's my paranoia. But, they all went bad eventually. So I didn't necessarily regret the decision, but I would have liked to leave them together if possible. But, so I've popped an egg doing it before, but of a pine snake, not a scrub python. But I was just like, I felt like such an idiot. That egg apart. Like, what the hell did I just do that for?
Yeah. And I know there's some people that have gotten massive barnet clutches from pretty big females where they kind of have to break them apart just to fit them in different incubator tubs. You can't physically get it into a single thing. So I totally, don't blame them on that.
Yeah, 100%.
And then so I just do, kind of vermiculite on the bottom with light rack over that, and then set them on top of that. And then I just dump a ton of water in the vermiculite. I don't do the 1-to-1 ratio. I just saturate it.
Okay.
And so, it's helps with the 100% humidity in there, but the eggs are up off of it and not, sitting directly on the vermiculite.
Okay.
I have an ancient incubator that I don't know, it's probably from 80s or something. That was an old medical incubator that I got from a old school herp friend, and
nice.
It's served me well over the years. I've been breeding stuff in it for hatching stuff in it for probably 15 years or so, and hasn't failed me yet. But yeah, one of these days I'm going to have to upgrade. But for now it's it's still working great. I'm always afraid I get a brand new incubator. This one's never failed me, but I get a brand new one because I need a new one, and that one craps out on me or something and kills the clutch or
yeah.
Well,
yeah, no doubt. Okay. And what temperature did you cook them at?
I had it set at 86, I believe, and the eggs were between 86.5 to 87 degrees.
Okay.
And this, but scrub pythons often can generate their own heat towards the end of incubation. That's something you always have to watch out for. And so I actually was able to watch that within the last week or so with this clutch, that it actually raised about a full degree.
Wow.
And back in the day, people would always tell you incubate scrubs at 89 degrees. But what a lot of people would what would happen to them is they'd go full term and then die as they start hatching. And that's because they would generate their heat and they would cook themselves. And so people start saying, well, at the end, you drop it down a few degrees. And I think now everybody's kind of more realizing it's just better just drop it down a few degrees and you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
So about 87 is where I kind of like to cook them at.
Okay. Yeah, the first couple of clutches I did that where I dropped the temps at the end, and subsequently I haven't done that on some clutches. I haven't seen any difference, but I think if anything, I've actually experienced having some cooked too cold,
Yeah.
frankly. And like I think I had a couple bar necks that I don't think either of them made it. It was a rough clutch overall. The female retained half of it, yada yada. But I think they came out of the egg on day 96 or 97.
Mhm.
And I'm just like, and they were small too. I'm like, why? Like,
Yeah.
there's no reason for them to go that long. So what day did they hatch out for you?
It was, I think it was like 77 or 78,
Okay.
which was actually a little, I was expecting more in the late 80s.
Yeah.
So I was when I opened it and there was a head sticking out, I was definitely surprised. I knew we were getting close because they had all dimpled, and yeah, I saw the temperature rise and everything. But yeah, I was like, I probably got another week to 10 days. So
Yeah.
and then that first one was out that next morning. I noticed that he was sticking his head out at kind of my last check at the night.
Wow.
And yeah, the next morning he was out and ready to go. He's striking at me and everything.
Awesome. Yeah, I've found that, and this might just be anecdotal, but I feel like the southern types all hatch a little bit faster than the northern types. And that could be just totally random, but the year that I had a clutch of, you're gonna hate this, quote unquote, Highlands, and Barnecks that were laid, like the Highlands were laid, I think a day or two before the Barnecks, or I'm sorry, after the Barnecks, and the Southerns hatched out like 4 days before the Barnecks did, in the same, like right next to each other in the same incubator, which could have also had something to do with their gestation as well, I guess. But I just feel like overall, I've heard of more like Barneck clutches going 90 plus than Southern clutches. Could be totally off base on that, but
I've never bred Barnecks, but are their eggs generally a little bit bigger than the Southerns?
not that I found. They're the only difference that I've experienced so far. And I think when I told both you and Shane about it, you guys were like, yeah, it's like that. But the first Halmahera eggs that I saw, I was like, what the hell are these giant alien eggs? Holy shit.
Yeah.
They were fucking huge, but the rest of them, I haven't seen any differences. Just the Halmaheras.
Yeah, and the Halmaheras, I actually incubated warmer. They were like 87.5.
Okay.
And they took 87, 88 days, something like that. So I actually cooked them warmer, and they took a lot longer. But yeah, they averaged about 100 grams per egg. And
that's crazy.
I think the Southerns, because I just weighed the mass. I didn't, obviously pull them apart to weigh them all, but I think the average was more like 60 grams.
That's kind of what I was saying. Yes, yeah. Yeah, that's nuts. Would you have any thoughts as to like why biologically that would be advantageous for them? Have the giant ass eggs?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure I could.
Yeah,
even get
not like a baby scrub python out of a regular scrub python egg is a scrawny little snake by any means.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. One thing that I've always found as an interesting parallel is that the retics from Halmahera, to my knowledge, undergo the same phenomenon of smaller volume, smaller number clutches of bigger eggs, and they're not, they're a quote unquote dwarf. A 8 foot female could lay an 11 foot. They're not going to get probably 15 feet on Halmahera, but they have proportionally much larger eggs.
Yeah. And the more I see of those Halmahera retics, the more I'm kind of liking them.
I used to have a pair. I ended up selling them because I needed to put them in cages, and I was looking at all my cages and I'm like, I'd rather have scrub pythons and all these. So I moved the retics along, but yeah, they're my favorite retics. Like no close second. They're so cool. They're beautiful, beautiful snakes.
I have several friends locally here that are really into retics and stuff, and I saw them at a show recently. And I was like, okay, we need to talk about home hair retics. They're like, oh yeah, they're cool. And so I was like, okay, tell me more about them. So I don't know if I'll ever get them, but yeah, I at this point, probably if I ever were to get retics at home, it would probably be something like that. So
yeah, because you said you have a big one at the zoo right now in the old Kinghorn exhibit. Okay.
Yeah, she's a full retic.
I'd have to imagine you get enough of a retic fix off of that animal.
Yeah. Oh, and it was kind of an annoyance of mine. We had an old female retic that was gigantic. She was well over 20 feet. We got her as, it was before I was there, but they got her as like a 15-foot wild caught female. And so, and she was horrible attitude, but like kind of calmed down throughout the years. And so I always kept saying like, all right, next time we need to get, like, there's a million people breeding these. We can get a captive bred baby, raise it up. So like we don't have to do this again. Different curator came in, got us another 15-foot or 10+ foot wild caught nasty retic. And that's the one we have now.
Okay.
But so her attitude was pretty terrible, but like I've been working with her and trying to get I don't know, I guess call it a working relationship with her.
Yeah.
Because it's not something you want to go in there and grab out to clean her cage, or so I kind of have been working with her on just her understanding that if I'm in here, but like I'm not trying to bother you, you don't bother me. And so like gotten her more and more comfortable with me just kind of working in there.
Yeah.
I'm never in a spot where in the exhibit where I'm trapped or whatever. It's always like my back's to the door. I can always jet out if I need to, that kind of thing. But she's definitely calmed down.
Yeah, that's good.
So it's a big nasty retic's not all that fun.
No,
but we're getting there with her.
Yeah, I feel like at a certain point, like I feel like when you're younger or newer into the hobby, there's like that allure to wrangling like some giant angry snake, and then at a certain point it's just like I'd rather keep something that's a little more moderate, a little more chill, and just like I have my heart rate going crazy every time I have to look at that animal.
Exactly. Yeah, I definitely had a retic in my collection for a while, many years ago, and after a while I was like, what am I doing with this thing? And I had a friend that was willing to take it. Actually, my old mentor that I've talked about, he was in getting his PhD, and he was like, I could just keep it up here in my lab. And I was like, yeah, sure. If you want it for your lab, go for it. And he said it eventually calmed down pretty nice. And I think he gave it to a student or something that really wanted it. So.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, it's kind of nice, obviously scrub pythons have had the reputation forever of being, the heat-seeking missiles or whatever. What's really cool for me, like a lot of the animals that I have, whether they're captive bred or wild caught, are ones I've raised up from a younger size. And like today I was cleaning most of my adults, and I was putting a female back, and I was kind of trying to palpate her a little bit. And then she peed on the floor like a scrub python will. Mm-hmm. I just kind of sat there for a second. I'm like, when's the last time one did that? I'm like, the fact that I can even question that is like kind of cool. For the longest time, like that was every day. It's like this, especially the bigger wild caughts, like that's just what they do. They're going to try to, they're going to stand their ground, then they're going to run and pee, and it's going to be a fucking disaster. But then, younger captive bred animals that are just kind of, whether they're chill or not, just used to what you're doing with them. I feel like if anything else with scrub pythons, they get really accustomed to how you interact with them, and they're just like good with that routine. Like, oh, I'll go here for a while, you do your thing, and then I go back. All right, I won't fight it too hard.
Yeah, and I think it has a lot to do with just how you react. If you get real jumpy with them and they're like, "Oh, it's gonna bite," they're gonna react to that. And but if you're calm and just kind of move calmly with them and just kind of be just real relaxed, they seem to pick up on that. I've gotten snakes from other people that are like, "Oh, it's so aggressive," but after I work with it a little bit and just my demeanor, like I'm like, they're not really all that bad.
Yeah.
And like the Jayapura, Wominas that I have, that they're captive bred that I got from as babies, they've been super chill from day one.
Yeah.
Like I could just grab them. And even the wild caught ones I've had of those, like they were very reluctant to bite, but the wild caught ones would pee like crazy. I remember there was one time where I was working with one years ago and it just sprayed me everywhere. And I was like, I need to go shower and change after it. Like it was so bad. And then but I had this one female, this big female long time ago that like, she was really calm and I was doing something with her one day and for whatever reason, I was trying to put her in kind of a small bin. I don't remember if I was here somewhere doing something with her, but I was trying to get her in this bin and her being a scrub, which is being difficult on getting all in there. And I could tell at one point she kind of got annoyed and was kind of like, I'm done with this.
Yeah, like not playing your game anymore.
Yeah. And so she headbutted me. Closed mouth.
That's interesting.
And just headbutted me. And I was like, cool. Wow. I was like, that could have been really bad if if you actually opened your mouth. But like the fact that you're just like, I'm just going to headbutt you. That's just my nice way of saying I've had enough. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. I definitely have seen them do the closed mouth strike, but I've never been hit by one. So that must have been like a moment of like a quick adrenaline spike. And then like, huh, that's actually kind of neat. Like,
yeah, she was easily 9 foot or so, maybe up to 10. So yeah, she was a decent sized girl. It wouldn't have felt good.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I feel like one thing that has helped some of mine kind of chill out over time is that I try everything in my power to not have to like put them into holding tubs when I'm cleaning. For that, like it's so difficult to get them in there, and then like if they grasp the edge of that tub, you're just fighting for your life with that snake. So in like my garage where I have my cages, like I don't have any of them on casters, so the bottom ones are just right on the ground. I have this corner in the room where the cages are like 7.5 feet in the air and 12 feet running on either side. So I can just put the snake there in that corner and like it really can't get anywhere.
Yeah.
And so like I don't have to try to force it into a big old like more like a big brute can or something like that, or have to worry about them getting their tail around like that metal rack that's right behind you. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, when a scrub python is anchored onto something that it doesn't want to let go of, that there are not many harder snake situations to get out of than that.
Yeah. Yeah, I always have multiple hooks handy when I'm working with any of my scrubs.
Me too. So, but I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. They're my favorite reptile I've ever interacted with. So
yeah, mine too. Yeah, it's kind of funny. So like, I have 2 daughters. They're 10 and 7, and I'm having them help me in the snake room. I kind of have them involved, and they really enjoy it. But mostly they've helped with the ball pythons, and that's ball pythons can be fun. I enjoy them, but it's a great thing for me to keep and breed and have my daughters like active with. And,
sure.
They'll hold them. They help with that everything. And so they of course wanted to see these babies and my 10-year-old was watching me deal with them as they're coming out of the eggs and stuff. And she's like, these things are really bitey. That's kind of cool. I kind of like that. I was like,
you got some real herpers over there.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they get real into it. So as I was going through all of the babies, once they're all out, they were naming them all. I'm like, okay, yeah, here's this one. Like, all right, that's Eli. I'm not going to remember all this.
Yeah, that's awesome. Absolutely. Well, we're definitely kind of wrapping, winding down over here, just about at that 2-hour mark. This definitely flew by. I really appreciate you taking this time tonight to talk. So I guess at this point, kind of wrapping up, what are some of your plans kind of going forward with scrub pythons? Where do you have a point of, wanting to be, getting a clutch every year or adding this or that? Like, what do you see yourself kind of forwarding the project like?
Ideally, I would love to have kind of a pair or so of just about every type. If I could. A clutch or 2 a year would be fantastic. I don't necessarily want to have 9 million of them, just because I've been there where you have way too many and kind of get burnt out.
Sure.
And that's why I basically got out of it for, several years, and then kind of have slowly built it back up. And I definitely don't plan on getting back to the numbers I used to have it wasn't just scrub pythons, but
where were you at your largest point of the collection?
I probably had 100 or so animals.
Scrub pythons or just
most of it was probably had more carpet pythons than anything.
Okay.
And then scrub pythons. But it's like, I work in 40 hours a week at the zoo, work with them, and then come home, have to do more. And it was like, eventually like, okay. And I tend to put too much on my plate just in general in life. I'm not a person that sits still. So, I was also like, I was in a band, I played soccer, and then we started having kids. I was like, okay, this is getting to be too much. So, definitely, not wanting to go crazy with numbers again. But if I could at least have, kind of planning a few pairs of different localities or species or whatever, I don't know if I'll ever actually have all of them. That would be great. But, if I could have fair representatives of most of the different types, I think that would be great, and produce, clutch or 2 a year, I think would be fantastic.
Nice. If you had to pick one to do next, like the next one you wanted to add, if you had, just any factors aside, what would be the next ones in?
Probably a Tannenbars.
Nice.
Would be the next, but realistically, could that happen? I don't know.
Not impossible, but definitely not as easy as most of them.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, for anybody who wants to keep up with what you're doing, or potentially, reach out about the Southern Scrub babies, what are the best ways to get a hold of you?
You can find me on Facebook, just Blake Bauer, or I have an Instagram for my page, Python Central, as well. I'm trying to be better about updating that more often. I'm not always the best at social media, but I'm working on it. But I've been trying to be more active with that. And as these guys are starting to shed and feed, I'll be posting more pictures of them. They're pretty neat. You can kind of see very faint pattern with them right now, and that should come out more and more. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'll be sure to post updates, especially on my Instagram.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to it, and I know a lot of people who are watching and listening are as well. Once again, Blake, thank you so much for being with me here tonight. This was a great conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for tuning into the episode, and I will catch you all back here next week for a new one.
Sorry for the interruption, folks, but a quick word from our sponsors. Green tree pythons, emerald tree boas, and plenty other arboreal snakes have been quite the popularity here at the Trap Talk Reptile Network, which brings me to today's sponsor, the Reptile Perch. Head over to thereptileperch.com and Reptile Perch on Instagram. See what type of design PVC perch is best for your arboreal reptile. But first and foremost, I would also check out David Brom's Green Tree Python availability on the website. And you can also check out his Instagram just to stay current on any projects or any productions that he posts. Thank Thank you so much, David Bronze, for your ongoing support. Looking forward to seeing what you have to show in the 2025 season. When you think about building a good community and being a leader of that community, nobody comes to mind better than Mark Hager over at Texas Chondros. That's right. Make sure you head over to TX Chondros on Instagram and also head over to Mark's website. See what he has available green tree python wise and be ready for quite the 2025 green tree python breeding season out of Mark Hager. He's a veteran in the green tree python game, one of the best and nicest breeders in the green tree python game. He's been putting on the whole state of Texas for as long as I've known him. So if you want to see all the amazing other chondro keepers out of the state of Texas, another good reason to go follow Mark Hager over at TX Chondros on Instagram. And again, head over to his website, texaschondros.com. You can find all the links in the description below. Thank you so much, Mark Hager, for supporting the trap. Treat. One of the biggest growths we have in the reptile industry today are the rare species of reptiles that aren't worked with. That's right. That's why I went ahead and partnered up again with Brian Susan over at SUNDOWN Reptiles. Brian works with species such as kahua geckos, gargoyle geckos, all species of tree monitors. He works with abronia and many other cool species geckos that you can check out all on his website. Head over to sundownreptiles.com, see what he has available. Brian's one of the best doing it in the reptile industry today. He's been on the show multiple times, so make sure you check out all of Brian Susan's episodes on Trap Talk Reptile Network. But more importantly, for the highest quality of captive bred reptiles, make sure you head over to sundownreptiles.com and make sure you give him a follow on Instagram. Thank you again, Brian Susan over at SUNDOWN Reptiles. One of the things I love about being a part of the reptile industry is all the learning, okay? Learning can be fun, and I can prove that to you. Thank you so much to today's sponsor, Gary Scavino over at gs.reptiles. I highly recommend you head over to his YouTube channel, follow all this man's content when it comes to learning about rare species of snakes you could be keeping in the hobby, and also just finding out how easy a lot of these rare species of snakes are to keep in general. So thank you so much, Gary Scavino of GS Reptiles. Again, head over to his YouTube channel. Also head over to his Instagram to be on top of all of his current work and be ready for a big year over at GS Reptiles. Thank you so much, Gary, for your ongoing support. I really appreciate it. Cheers.